republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so we're going to start with, there's no public comment, because there's nobody here. So we'll do the approval of the minutes, and we'll start with June 14th.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes on June 14th.
I will second.
Okay, yeah.
Any questions?
Oh, for the regular meeting, I mean, the minutes on June 14th, do we have any questions or comments? No? Okay.
Are we voting
All
on
in favor?
Aye.
Abstain, I was not here. Is what it says.
Are we doing a verbal, we doing a...
Motion passed 3-1. We have to do them out loud so
Yep.
that it's recorded on the video.
Oh, okay,
So
okay.
the hand raised as well.
Okay, all right. So the next meeting for the approval of minutes for June 29th.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any questions or comments?
No. So all in favor?
Aye.
Everybody?
It's the heat around it, it's getting to us.
Okay, and then July 26th, the special meeting.
Motion passed, by the way, 4-0.
Any comments, questions?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Don't abstain, I wasn't here.
Abstain, sorry.
So it's unanimous with 2.
Kelly abstains and Patrick abstains. Christina's
For the record, I
yes.
have a death in the family. I guess there's some concern about board members not being in the meetings, which we try our best.
So right now I have 2 and 2, so we can table these to the next meeting, so
Okay.
actually,
Perfect. All right, so we did tabling that. All right, so the next would be the reports for the superintendent report, and she's not with us yet, so.
You can come back to it.
Yeah, sounds good. All right. And the next one would be curriculums and instruction and assessment report.
Great, thank you. I'll keep it brief. I know there's a lot of reports, but we do have a few beginning of the year kind of updates for you guys. First on the list is safety and security. The New Hampshire Department of Safety has released, just in time for school year, has released a new template for our emergency operations plan. So we're using it as an opportunity rather than a rewrite. We're sitting down, and just thank you to the principals for doing this. We're sitting down with all of our schools and going piece by piece through our emergency operations plans with the updated template through the Department of Safety in anticipation of submitting those to the Department of Education and making sure we have a viable product for each one of our schools. In addition, we were able to sit down with the statewide Department of Safety group to start working on facilitating some tabletop discussions and some actual scenarios that all of our emergency responders will be able to basically talk through at our safety and security meetings this year. They've been great, and I'm looking forward to those meetings as well. And lastly, on safety and security, we are in the process of making sure our staff are up to date on ALICE training, as well as all of our drills for the year. And by the way, the Department of Safety meeting counts as one of those, so that's a bonus. Second on my list is Portrait of a Learner. We are going to start the school year with Portrait of a Learner activity with all of our staff, all of our returning staff. We sent out an invitation to the school board as well. Really look forward to engaging in that process. And again, the idea here is what do we want in terms of skills and attributes of our SA 21 graduates and how can we get there? So it's kind of a deep dive or a strategic planning process for us. And kind of I'll wrap the last two together. We're doing our admin retreat actually tomorrow and Thursday, as well as new teacher professional development coming up on August 22nd and 23rd. You know, we're going through, what I'd like to say about that is it's nice to be kind of normal and starting the school year again. We're all face to face and we're doing the normal trainings. Looking forward to getting started with a new team. We're an augmented team. And Any questions for me?
Sure. I didn't hear all of what Dave had to say, so I'll try not to be redundant, but obviously you've met Jamie, our new Seabrook Middle School principal. Dr. Toomey is not able to be with us today, who's our new assistant superintendent for student support, but she will be at your September meeting. She's actually on vacation this week. Nice and toasty for her. Tim Dow, our new elementary assistant principal, will be at a future meeting, as will Mike Bongardier, our new middle school assistant principal, but we want to make sure folks get to know them, and they're certainly hard at work helping our principals this summer. We also have a new director of student services here, Carrie Harwood-Bramhall, and she'll be at a future meeting as well, so we can be sure to introduce her to you. But a lot of changing faces here, so we want the community to know who they are. Dave mentioned the administrative retreat. Matt's going to talk to you about all the fun business office things, including our audit, which is happening right now. We are gearing up for back to school, and board members, we should have received an invitation to join us for our back to school teacher day, for our push of learner work. Policy committee is coming right up on August 18th, and that's an extra long meeting, so be prepared. We will feed you, I think. We're trying to knock out a good chunk of policies. And then I just noted a few legislative changes that impact us for the upcoming year. Parents and guardians should be aware that they're no longer required to provide a notarized form if they're submitting requests for exemptions from immunization requirements due to religious beliefs. It used to have to be notarized, and now that does not. Student IDs at the middle school level, if we are issuing them, we'll include the name and phone number for the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, so just a resource that was a state law that passed this year. And you should have received information from the New Hampshire School Boards Association regarding House Bill 1178 relative to the right to bear arms. So although schools are federal, they're what's called a federal safe school zone, the bill that passed in New Hampshire says that it doesn't apply. We can enforce that federal law in New Hampshire. So students obviously are still restricted from bringing weapons to schools. But when we have public events on school property, people who have permits to carry weapons are allowed to carry them on school property as well. So people should just be aware of that. That's not new, actually. New Hampshire has had that provision a little often over the years, but it's something that people weren't necessarily aware of. It's been really, so that is it.
So we have student services report.
Yes. It is included, but I can get some highlights from Dr. Toomey's report. So she again mentioned hiring Carrie Harwood-Bramhall. We are offering a training called One Trusted Adult for our educational associates. That program is being funded by the New Hampshire Department of Education, and it really is focused around building strong connections and boundaries with students to ensure that every young person has one trusted adult in their lives and in their school experience. We also have a law that was put into place that primarily affects students at the high school level, but the upper age limit for students with disabilities has been raised from the age of 21, which is what it's been in New Hampshire. It's going to be through the student's 22nd birthday. So that will have some financial implications in subsequent years in New Hampshire. That law has been interpreted that way in many other states, and New Hampshire has been considering that law for a couple of years, but just enacted it this past legislative session. I think that is it in our report.
So Brian, elementary school principal report.
So August is National Truancy Prevention Month, and so we've been sending out information in our back to school packets, just reminding parents about the importance of coming to school. COVID has been a concern for attendance, and we want to rebound from that and hopefully get our students here. There's actually a graphic included about how much attendance affects academic success in the school. For kindergartners who miss school, for anyone under third grade, it really affects their ability to learn early literacy skills. So we're going to be continuing to share information about that working on getting some signage for parents to drop off to remind them when school starts at 8 o'clock. And really starting to make sure that our kiddos are here. It's been a big challenge for us to get this to school for our parents. We're getting excited for kindergartners. The class of 2036.
Wow. Oh my God, I know.
So we've sent information out to kindergarten parents and encourage any kindergarten parents to come play on the playground. Summer school's over now. The wood chips are all brand new, so come over and play on the playground. Just a real quick thank you to Lauren DeConstant. Lauren ran our summer school program, and this program was out of this world. We had 125 kids that came here every day. We had one student ask me, "What do I need to do to make this a full day?" I was like, "Well, I think the teachers want a little vacation," but it was really great. We went away from the traditional trip to Barnes and Noble this year, and we actually added a farm petting zoo and went to Seabrook Science Center. So big focus for us as we kind of reinvent our science and social studies curriculum is embed experiences for students in play space. We're on the seacoast, you're going to see a lot more ocean stuff from us. And maybe not a trip to the bookstore, maybe doing more experience. And there's lots of other thank yous. Miss Gocho has been busy. There's a picture. She actually connected with the rec and will be managing the library at the rec now. So she painted the bookshelf and stocked it with brand new books for kids to take home. And her goal is across Seabrook to find locations where we can have new libraries to continue to push the importance of early literacy. Because a lot of what happens for success in kindergarten happens from birth to age 3, where a lot of parents need to know to start reading right away to their kids. So we're trying to fill houses with books, and so you'll see that logo hopefully around. And let's see one more thing. There's some pictures from summer school. And I think our literacy team and our facilities team have been working all summer. So a big kudos to everyone on the facilities team. The walls are almost built in our speech room, and the floors are almost all waxed. They're working this year. It's been one of the hottest summers I've been back, so thank you to them. That's it for me.
Excellent, thank you. Seabrook Middle School Principal's Report.
Sure, so this is my first report, so bear with me. I'm not as slick yet as Brian. I don't have pictures. I did go blueberry picking up with the summer school kids, and that was awesome. I think I ate more standing there than I did pick. So yeah, I just want to echo some of the things that Brian said with respect to the recognitions and the gratitude, again with Lauren DeConstant. You know, as I transitioned into this new role, I've really had to rely on a lot of folks here over the summer for their institutional knowledge and their grace and their sort of patience, and so that's been a great start. So I really appreciate all of the support that I've received from Peter Moore and his crew, from Brian and Lana. I mean, just everybody in the building over this summer has really helped my transition. So just wanted to extend that gratitude specifically. Also, Mike Bombardier, we hired, as you all know, as assistant principal. He's off to a great start. He's picking it up quickly. I'm trying not to overwhelm him. I don't want his brain to explode before the first day of school. But he has been doing a great job. With the things that we have in process, we've actually really been quite productive. We've modified and changed our student handbook, which you'll see later on in new business, to reflect some additional behavior guidelines to help it be a little bit more user-friendly for students, staff, and families with respect to our behavior expectations, our restorative practices versus punitive practices, and our range of consequences. So that's later on in new business. I've also worked with the scheduling committee that was established before I arrived, who was a real passionate group of folks that were interested in taking a look at our current schedule and making any changes, albeit small or relatively large, in the hope that we'll be able to provide the best opportunities for students. And so we met over 3 times, and we got some feedback from staff. And the last meeting, they were able to come to a consensus with respect to changing the schedule. The structure will stay the same, but some of the periods will change a little bit, so as to provide more opportunities for our special ed students, and some more flexibility with respect to what teachers can do with their teams while they're in their pods. So I'm really happy to share that out with staff and put that in place, and we're actually now beginning the actual scheduling process with the help of Kyle, who is new to his role. So we're both sort of, all of us kind of all hands on deck to get the scheduling done. So I'm looking forward to that. And, oh, we have just 2 open spots that we plan to fill soon. We're interviewing Friday for social studies position and Title I tutors, of which we have 2 available. So we'll hope to have those wrapped up by next week.
Thank you. Matt.
Thank you. So we are 1 month into the fiscal year. So there's limited financial information, expenditures, revenue that would be reflected in an expenditure report or revenue report. So we've not included either of those reports. We're also currently rolling over fiscal years. So we will be including both the expenditure and revenue report for review starting in September and then monthly through the end of the fiscal year in June. That being said, I do want to update you on a pretty exciting new funding opportunity that's being offered through the state of New Hampshire. It is called the Security Action for Education Grant, SAFE for short. And it is intended to help schools fund security projects. So the state is offering $13 million to school districts across New Hampshire, of which every school is eligible for a maximum of $100,000 per school. And that's to address really 3 main categories: access control, surveillance, and emergency alerting. We will be, or we have submitted for security projects via our Homeland Security recommendations, as well as some internal analysis of our security. I will note that we do not have any more Homeland Security projects to address. From the last security audit in 2019, we implemented every recommendation that they did put forth. That being said, we can expand those existing recommendations, and then there are some other areas that we felt were important to address, and we certainly did not want to leave any money on the table. That being said, it's not a guarantee. It's actually Homeland Security who will be reviewing all of these applications, and they will be ranking them based on need throughout the state. So it's not first come, first serve, it's based on need. So if they deem that other schools require projects that are more necessary than us, then we could be out of luck. That being said, there is $13 million available, so I'm hopeful that we will get a maximum of $200,000 because we are applying for both schools. And just so that you're aware of the process, the first round of applications were due on July 22nd, of which $3 million was available. The second round, $10 million, the application is due on August 26th. So we did put the applications in, and should we not receive approval for that first $3 million, it will automatically be rolled over to the second round. The state has indicated that we will receive notification for that first round by the end of the summer, so end of August, beginning of September, and fall timeframe for the remaining $3 million. So we will certainly keep you updated, but it is a great opportunity for us to potentially add to our robust security measures that are already in place. Be happy to answer any questions on finance or operations related.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Facilities report?
Yes, go ahead.
So Peter Mora, our facilities director, did submit his monthly maintenance report. It includes you know, things such as building new desks. We added a wall to our SLP, our speech language pathologist room, to allow for better quality of those speech services between our two therapists. You know, he's been busy putting together lots of new furniture that we had budgeted for. And then our normal kind of maintenance tasks, such as fire extinguisher checks, our underground storage tank inspections. And I also just want to note just what an amazing job that the facilities team has done, because besides these basic maintenance projects, they have spent the entire summer working to clean the school, move classrooms around, because we've changed, different teachers have gone into different classrooms, we've adjusted some areas, as well as the outdoor grounds. This is the time when they've done a lot of that outdoor work, so they really, it's always a big task at hand, and they've really done an amazing job, so a big thank you to the facilities team.
Okay, continuing business.
So reopening plan is back. No real changes since we last approved this in March. The only change that you'll note, of any significance, is that we've updated the community transmission levels to reflect what the CDC is currently using, which changed in the spring. School will still be open in person. We are not requiring masks. It will only be required by a direct order from the HHS. COVID is still out there. People are still asked to stay home when they're sick. Take those precautions, wash their hands. If they have symptoms of COVID-19, we encourage them to test. Stay home and test, and if people do test positive, they're still required to isolate for 5 days. So those guidelines, again, haven't changed since January, and we are required to adopt this plan as an ESSER fund receiving district. So we would ask that the board approve that. Happy to answer any questions.
So what this is basically puts everything in the hands of the parents. Like if someone's sick, they don't send them to school. It's going to be on them to test them. Like the school is not coming down and saying, Johnny was out yesterday, we need a test for him to come back, and then if he tests, you remember how we've had all the problems of trying to get tests in, making sure people stay home. This is more or less on the parents. If they're sick, they have to be tested.
If students come to school sick, the nurses will be able to still conduct the testing with parental permission that they were able to last year, the Binax Now testing, as long as those supplies are available. We do have some on hand at this time, and we believe those will continue to be available, but again, if your child is sick, it's on the parent to keep them home.
And once somebody tests, then they're automatically enrolled in whatever protocol is out.
That's right.
But we're not forcing people into like protocols like, all right, when you were near somebody that didn't feel good,
Correct.
they didn't test yet, so now you have to wait to test.
Correct.
All right.
Yep. And that,
Good to hear.
again, is continuing with what's been the case since last January. Yeah.
Okay. Board goals.
We have a motion on the.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Please.
Okay, a motion to approve the reopening plan.
Make a motion to approve it.
A second?
Kelly, is that
Yes. All in favor? Aye. Aye.
you? Motion passed 4-1.
Want to ask for a vote?
4-1. 4-1. I'm sorry, 4-0.
It's like Forrest had no from the correct.
Like a hut, but what am I missing? Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay. Okay, school board goals.
So,
I can speak.
yeah,
Sure.
please.
What you're looking at in your board packet is the result of several drafts and one in-person meeting with Forrest on kind of themes for Seabrook School Board goals. I mean, obviously you can dive into the language, but basically it falls around 3 different themes: academic excellence, school culture, and community connections. I think through conversation, what we like most about these goals is it represents kind of a collaboration between the school administrative goals and the board itself. We bounce it obviously off administration as well. The only thing I draw to your attention is that blue bullet. Those are Forrest's notes about basically getting a measurement around team environment between educational staff. And with that as the caveat, we just need to iron out that language. These are hopefully ready to go.
So should we wait on Forrest
I
to
think so.
officially,
Yeah,
yeah,
we should.
I agree. Just gonna say, to work out that language too, does that make
Correct.
sense?
Yep.
So we can come back next
Sure,
meeting with a final draft. Great.
please.
With new business, Forrest did reach out to me, and I apologize for not being able to be here, but he said, he did wanna discuss, two different things that, I don't know if we bring up now to then think about for next meeting, or do we just wait and put on the agenda? I mean, they're fairly minor in the grand scheme of things, nothing
Yeah.
earth shattering, but.
And Randy will check out.
You're related to the handbooks, right, with regards to items. It's the-
Yeah, probably.
That's why he was gonna bring them up, like,
Yeah.
within our handbooks.
He did not clarify that information, he just gave me the two things. All right, we will wait for that, that's okay.
So we'll bring those back, the goals back to your September meeting with final language proposed for that blue bullet.
Okay, so is that what you're referring to for the student handbook?
Yeah, you want to say anything? So he had two questions, right? One which was during the dress code, if students can wear hats. And the second was he'd like us to consider being a district representative of that. And those two are pieces of our student handbook. Elementary school already does allow hats, so we already have students who wear hats. We don't like hoodies. Hoodies are if a kid needs the privacy of them, it's not going to get into a battle about hoodie. So, but as far as being in a homework school, I would love the opportunity to take that back to my leadership team and to talk about what are the implications of no homework. There are two views on homework. One is that it's an equity issue. Some students don't have help at home. And setting them that far behind and doing homework and staying in for recess and all that stuff is not real fair to a kid who doesn't have any help. And the other piece of it is responsibility. You know, you teaching responsibility and doing homework and actual practice. And so I think our teachers could come up with a creative way to, whether it's a optional homework or some sort of team work or something, but I really like to bring that to them and not have it happen to them. Because we'll be better marketing.
Some raccoons and cat or something like
How does he
Almost
do
every day.
so?
If you look out hot, my wife, like, you have to take that, you smell like a rat. That's right. That's
So the elementary school handbook is a lot of similar updates, just updates in language to be more representative of Tim and my leadership style. I think the biggest piece, we removed some of the appropriate and inappropriate items for school, it just didn't, the language wasn't right, and so that section has been updated. You can't bring live animals to school.
Oh, man.
Trading cards, some of those things are updated.
And we don't bring live animals, I'm just saying.
Great. We also updated the dress code section. The dress code felt very limiting for kids, for boys and girls. And I have a 13-year-old son and I have a 7-year-old daughter. I know how challenging it is to find clothes. It just felt archaic. And so the dress code basically just says that students now need to wear appropriate school clothing for sitting, climbing, and learning. In elementary school, we don't really have the challenges they may have in middle school, and it just felt very gender biased. You know, we're trying to make sure girls can have clothes without having to measure their arm and all that. It's not our philosophy. So that section has been updated. And the discipline section was also very punitive. It was negative. The language was really written about consequences. And so Tim and I spent some time working on how do we have restorative practices, because if a student does something wrong, we want them to fix it, to resolve it, and to move on and learn the lesson. And so a lot of our language and discipline is more about our cooperation, assertion, responsibility, and empathy. And the whole idea of discipline is that a student learns from the goal. So you'll see that section updated. And I think, other than that, a lot of these other things are just mandatory, the following policies from the SAU, a lot of this other stuff is just weird. We have, Tim and I were talking about a more student-friendly kind of handbook. This is really text-driven, and for elementary school, we love to have more like a guidebook for students that have more pictures in it. So in the next year, our goal is to kind of come up with something that's not a parent book like this, that's more for students.
That's great. I have one quick question about the bus stuff, because I know that that's been a big discussion, about issues on the bus and then consequences for problems that are had on the bus. And I know that it's tough because it intertwines middle and elementary a lot. But I'm curious when questions are asked about what this says about it, what can we do?
Right. So what I really like about you bringing that up is it actually shows the progressive discipline. So when parents wonder, hey, nothing happened to that student, actually, we follow this process in the handbook. And so it would be a good idea to send parents to that section and remind them that we have progressive discipline. There is, first step is a warning from the bus driver, second is a write-up, the third is the kind of rules leading up to removal from the bus. And so that section, I think we're going to be working on in the future. I think there's some new policy stuff that we're going to be looking at the bus, in our relationship with the bus, and making sure that we're working together. They have someone in their office who reached out to us today to get connected, so I'm looking forward to working closely with them.
Do all the buses have like cameras and stuff on them? You guys, I know.
Most buses have two, so most have one in the back and one in the front. And what's great about the buses that are different than our cameras is they have sound. So you can hear a conversation. A lot of times you can hear what you can hear.
That's
what
good. I mean,
So a question with, I guess, the buses, who makes the policy on like where people are sitting on the bus? I know we've tried to have things separated off as like all the elementary school up front, all the middle school in the back. Clearly, we had lots of issues last year with the bus drivers not wanting to be the disciplinarian on the bus. And the second graders were intermingling with the eighth graders, and that caused a lot of headache and a lot of issues. Do you guys have recourse with the bus company to give them rules to say, like, we want all first, second, third graders not to go past road 10, we're gonna put the other ones in the back, and
I think we need to work better. I think we need to work more closely with the drivers to support them, and I know we can do that this year. The way that I see it is we have X number of kindergarten seats, X number of first grade, and I think we could probably get to the point where every seat is assigned. I think we could probably get to that point where even the students' name is there. I think it's gonna be a lot of work. And a lot of it is reteaching students behavior. Sometimes at the elementary school, kids climbing out of their seat, and imagine having 75 kids behind you while you're trying to drive down ahead. It's really tricky to be a bus driver. We're lucky that we have such good bus drivers in the first place. So I think we'll do a better job, Tim and I will do a better job with that. Reteaching student behavior, expectations, they need to be taught how to be on the bus. So
I know that was the biggest concern. I've had a lot of people reach out to me about, why isn't anything done with the bus? I don't have an extra 17 buses. We're under budgetary constraints. You have to talk with all the people that you're supposed to talk with. I can't wave a magic wand and help you on this, but I am here to facilitate. I just want to make sure that that's something that's on the forefront of the video, that make sure that these kids are safe on the bus. They don't have to necessarily enjoy themselves, but they do have to be safe and they do have to be respected. There's a big issue between second grade and eighth graders with some pretty horrible stuff said, going back and forth, and the bullying kind of continued, and I know it kind of reached into the rec this summer as well with certain kids, but we've gotten things kind of under control. But that's a huge ticket item with a lot of parents.
and for the public, just as a
Yeah.
aside to remember is also like when we as a town vote down a school budget, we're also removing things that you may not see until those things are no longer there, and then you're wondering why they're there. And I'm sure Maddie could speak to that. Not that that's this specific issue, but there have been.
How you vote,
Yeah.
you need to save money, and I understand it under financial times, people do not want taxes going up.
Yeah.
But it does take away something, and we can't just pull buses or extra teachers or another facility out of thin air. It is constrained to what we can provide tax dollar-wise. As long as we can give parents, I think, peace of mind of like, hey, we know that when you put your second grader or first grader on the bus, they're going to at least be monitored and separated and made sure they're at least respected by the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. And I know it's a rambunctious route and it is hard, but that's, I think, one of their, I've had people say that I can't even put my kids on the bus because of bullying issues, this, that creates a strain on me. Just want to make sure that is all addressed.
And I think if parents do have concerns, please reach out to the principal. That's the job.
That's where I
Speaking
send
to the bus
people all the
driver
time.
doesn't really resolve that, right? Because the bus drivers aren't responsible, strictly speaking, for the discipline, right? They're going to report that to the building administrator. So please reach out to the building administrators with any concern. As noted, we do have cameras. We can review the tapes, we can see what happened, and we can address the behavior and put a stop to those things quickly.
Alright, so we're gonna move on to the Seabrook Middle School student handbook.
Sure.
Yeah, we can do them both together, but we will ultimately need to adopt.
Oh,
To
okay.
adopt them, so.
That was gonna be a question that I had. Wow, well now my head's spinning about this bus thing, because, I mean, the words of my kid's principal are ringing in my ears, that all the problems he have to do with the buses. And this is the first district that I've had with buses in over 10 years, so. But when I was thinking about that, I mean, we do have language in here that does follow along that progressive discipline, but like, to echo what Brian said, I think there's an opportunity for us to do some more learning and some more partnering with the bus companies with respect to the behavior expectations. I mean, to me, this screams PBIS. Is one of those areas that we can teach kids some appropriate behavior, and I like the idea of assigned seats as well. So it is some work in progress, I think. I'm happy to ride on buses too, if there's an issue.
Yes.
Are you sure?
You know, yeah, I know, but I'm happy to. And then, so that's ongoing work. I mean, we do have some pretty good language in there now. But the dress code, I thought, was also kind of a way to go to taking the lead on that dress code, Brian, because when Mike and I were going over this dress code in the SMS student handbook, I mean, it was I was just kind of flabbergasted about the lack of equity I think that it shows, and that for me is I have a hard time with that. So with sort of your blessing, I would like to kind of suspend our current dress code, not necessarily suspend, but at least go back to the community at the middle school and have them draft or create some kind of appropriate dress that is inclusive and equitable. I know that I'm not going to change this massive dress code now, and if it's in there, then we'll enforce it. But I think that the community needs to have a voice with respect to how it looks and what it looks like, because there are some things in there that I think I would have a hard time enforcing, because I think it's a little outdated. But having said that, we didn't make any dramatic changes because I would like to get some feedback from the middle school community with respect to what the dress code looks like. So that is sort of intact right now in the current handbook. What we did change though is related to behavior. We included a behavior flow chart, which is similar to one that was put in place last year by one of our staff members. So that's at the beginning of our handbook, is the behavior flow chart, which will just show students and staff kind of the flow of information when we run into some disruptive behaviors, the path of communication. And then there's a little bit of a narrative just before that around traditional discipline versus restorative practices. We are embracing the restorative practice model, recognizing that behavior is a form of communication and a learning opportunity. And at our level, K through 8, in particular the middle level, we're focused on building relationships and repairing any damages that happen as a result of behaviors that pop up. So there is a little table that kind of compares and contrasts traditional versus restorative. And then there's a table that lists infractions that we typically will encounter, and then columns that show the progressive discipline associated with each of those infractions. We also recognize that accountability measures have to be in place. Students need to know boundaries and expectations, and accept some accountability in the event that there is some kind of infraction. So that's why we included that. We value the restorative process, but we also value accountability and boundaries. And I think it's important that that's laid out for students and staff. It's one of the things that we, I think, discovered, Mike and I, when we were going through this handbook, is that seemed to be omitted. There were some narrative descriptions with respect to behavior, but it wasn't very specific. And in my experience as an assistant principal, parents and students and staff respond best when it is explicitly laid out there, so that we can talk about accountability and moving forward. So that was really the goal behind those additions. We alphabetized some of the paragraphs too, just so it flows a little bit more nicely, but that's it for changes.
Okay, so I'm going to make a motion that we approve the Seabrook, Seabrook Middle School and Seabrook Elementary School handbooks. The Seabrook Elementary School is a draft, correct?
They're all
They're
drafts.
both drafts until
Okay.
you approve them.
Okay.
So you guys are gonna do one motion, not the individual motions that are.
Now with the middle school though, do we leave the opening for change in regards to the dress code and things like that? So that even though we're approving it as is, you know, it can be
Subject to
modified.
change.
Yeah.
So if we were to come up with a draft during the school year after we meet with some stakeholders, we could then present a revision.
Yeah.
I think it's fine till you want to go, Shin. I think what you want to just say is with the carve out for dress code as
Okay.
requested by principal
Okay.
Carson.
Okay. So make a motion to approve the elementary and middle school handbook, with subject to change for the dress code as recommended by Mr. Parsons.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
24.
Kelly did that.
Yep. Seconded by Jen.
Yep. Second by Jen.
Well,
For,
4-0.
4-0.
Jamie, would that be something you would put out to the students too? Sorry, So like a student-led discussion on it as well?
I've found that the most effective dress codes are the ones that have student voice in them,
Yeah.
because believe it or not, students can be pretty strict.
Yeah.
So,
That's true. Okay, cool, very cool. Excited to see what they come up with.
All right, so policies, first read.
Yes, so the policy committee met in June and reviewed 59 policies. Again, these are in recommended, not the required by law policies, and these come from the last few sections of your policy manual, next few sections of policy manual, primarily section C, which is about administrative policies, section D, which are fiscal policies, section E, which are support services, and section F, which are facilities. There are a couple of others which we added in there because of changes that have come up. So GBCD and IJOC are both relative to background checks. And so we reviewed those, and then we also recommended a number, 22 in fact, for withdrawal. Because they're not required, they're optional, and in many cases the language was covered in other policies. And the committee felt that it was
So, question,
please.
for the background investigation and criminal history,
Yes,
is that for coaches as well?
yes, coaches also have to go through a background check.
Okay, so is that something that takes place every single year?
Uh, If they're in continuous employment with us, it is not renewed every year.
So what if there's an incident that occurred and we're not aware of? I'm just asking in
Yep.
general.
So people are asked to, particularly coaches who are employees, are required under our code of ethics and code of conduct policies to notify us.
No, I mean,
If there's a criminal issue that occurs.
What if they're not employed? I'm stating like they're volunteers.
Volunteers.
Yes,
Um,
they're not employed with the school.
If it was brought to our attention, we would address it. I wouldn't necessarily have otherwise.
But it would be something that you would hope that people aware of the situation would bring up, whether anonymously.
If it's disclosed to us, we certainly would address it.
such that you could potentially get background checks if you really want, and work for 30, 40 years without having a background check. Whereas some states have periodic requirements, Massachusetts, for example, needs to be here every 3 years.
Yeah, no, I was looking for a plan, I was looking for a plan.
Well,
It
not even
requires
for
it every year.
employee or volunteer.
Where I volunteer, they made me fill one out.
Yeah, it becomes, cost prohibitive, but it's certainly,
I think it's like $25. Yeah, I think it's, $25.
Isn't there one that's like an official background check, and then there's like another one that you can do a query where you just put in the paperwork? It's like, you get fingerprinted once, they're on the thing, like, what's the one that we do through the rec? I gotta fill out.
It's
It's
like
a
sheet out.
state, it's $25 to the state, yeah. The rec. All right. Just a question.
So no action required on these, but the policy committee will be meeting again on August 18th, so if there's any feedback, please send those to me or your policy guy. Or Ron. D is also a policy, policy KLG, and in reviewing our policies, we noted that Seabrook and Winnacunnet as well, both have existing school resource officers who have had school resource officers for a number of years, did not have a policy on file, and the law changed in 2016 to require that if you had a school resource officer, that you have a policy related to that and related to developing a memorandum of understanding. We have an existing memorandum of understanding with the Seabrook Police Department. We updated that last year, but we want to adopt a policy so that we are meeting all the requirements under the law.
Do we need to make a motion on that?
It's first read, so we can do it at the second meeting.
Okay, so we're on questionnaire.
Thank you. So, as you're aware, on an annual basis, we conduct an audit, utilizing our audit firm, Plotzik and Sanderson. And as part of that audit process, which actually they are in the office this week, reviewing our documentation and interviewing members of the office staff. As part of that questionnaire, part of that process, they asked that we ask the board a number of questions relating to our financial procedures and controls. So at this point, I'm going to ask you a number of questions regarding to finance. And I just ask that you verbally answer yes or no. And additionally, there are a number of policies that are referenced in this questionnaire. And we've included those on board docs for their reference and for the public's reference. Once we complete the questionnaire, I will send it to the board chair for their signature, and then we will submit it to Plotzik and Sanderson for their review. So the first question is, do you have any knowledge or suspicions of fraud affecting your entity?
No.
Have you received any communications from employees, former employees, regulators, or others alleging fraud?
No.
Have you identified any specific risks of fraud within your entity?
No.
Has the board adopted a universal code of ethics for members and employees to follow?
Yes.
And that copy has been attached to board docs. If yes, does this document prohibit elected officials and employees from doing business with the entity?
No.
Have you or any related party of yours had any interest, direct or indirect, in any of the following transactions or pending or incomplete transactions since July 1st, 2021, to which the school district, SAU, or any retirement, savings, pension, or other similar plan was or is to be a party? The first item is the sale, purchase, exchange, or leasing of property,
No.
receiving or furnishing of goods, services, or facilities,
No.
transfer or receipt of income or assets,
No.
maintenance of bank balances as compensating balances for the benefit of another.
No.
Any other transactions?
No.
Does the board have any concerns over related party transactions? If so, please explain.
No.
Does the board formally authorize all disbursements, both vendor and payroll, prior to the release of funds?
Yes.
Describe how the board stays informed of the latest changes in the laws and regulations pertaining to the entity.
I'll wait to provide it to the superintendent and SAU office.
Yep, typically directly through the superintendent or at the school board meetings. Does the board review comparative reports of estimated and actual revenues and appropriations and expenditures?
Yes.
And if yes, how often are the reports reviewed? So typically that relates to the next question. That's done on a monthly basis at the school board meetings. That is the expenditure and revenue reports. This month being the exception because it's only a month into the fiscal year, but going forward it'll be on a monthly basis. So similarly, what procedures does the board follow in reviewing or using these reports? For example, does the board normally meet with the department heads as part of this process? Also, does the board review both the revenue and expenditure reports? So again, that's the business administrator reviewing it at these board meetings. Has the board approved a disaster recovery plan in the event of loss or interruption of the IT function?
Yes.
And that copy has been attached to the board docs. Is there a written investment policy adopted?
Yes.
That is also attached to the board docs, and this serves as the, today it serves as the latest review date. Have you adopted the use of either debit or credit cards by employees?
Yes.
There's a copy of the policy on the board docs. Does the board have knowledge of any funds or bank accounts that are not in custody of the treasurer?
Yes.
So
Oh,
yes,
yes.
so there are two. One is the Student Activities Fund, which, so we're talking about 2020, 2021 school year, so that was technically the last school year, so that would have been Aaron Milbury and Brian Belanger, the principals. However, starting this fiscal year, it will be Jamie Parsons and Brian Belanger. Additionally, we have our expendable trust funds. That is the Special Education Expendable Trust Fund as well as the Building Maintenance Expendable Trust Fund, and those are managed by the Seabrook trustees for the trust funds. Has the board approved a fund balance policy in compliance with GASB 54?
Yes.
And there is a copy attached to the board docs. And finally, does the school district SAU acknowledge of any crowdfunding activities? If so, please indicate what they are, on what website they're anything, and who is responsible for them. For example, two fiscal years ago, we had a GoFundMe campaign to raise funds to offer free lunches at the beginning of the pandemic for all of our students. So if there's anything similar that you may have heard of or seen, then this would be the point of those. Alrighty, thank you very much. So as I said, I will send this to the board chair for their signature, and we will submit to Ludwig and Sanderson.
All right, extracurricular stipend committee recommendation.
Thank you. So per our collective bargaining agreement with our teachers union, we do have an annual extracurricular stipend committee. And the purpose of this committee is to review our extracurricular list, which is attached to the CBA. And then the committee would make any recommendations for any changes, whether it's the actual activities or the amounts in the activity to the school board. So this serves as the memo recommending the changes to the board. I will note that the committee consisted of Forrest Carter, the board chair, Rebecca Sherborne, the Seabrook union representative, Andy Wallace, who's the vice president of the union, Aaron Milbury, principal of Seabrook Middle School. This occurred in June, so in future iterations, it will be Jamie and Brian. Brian was included, as well as myself. So based on that meeting, the committee does recommend that the school board approve making a few adjustments to stipends to better align with other comparable stipends, as well as to account for the current student participation. So that includes adjusting the or adding an art club in both the middle school and the elementary school at $998 each. This is an art club that is in existence, that was unpaid, and the process is that we pilot it, ensure that it is successful, and then we add it as a stipend. The same goes for a new health club in the middle school for $998, as well as an additional student council stipend in the middle school at $998. Additionally, we're looking to adjust the yearbook advisor to align with the other stipends in the middle school for $1,723 and remove Girls on the Run and the National Junior Honor Society. So the total cost of these adjustments total $955 that we are recommending that the board approve to be implemented in this current school year of 2022-2023.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Why was the Girls on the Run removed?
So that was Brian, maybe you can speak to
So
that.
the bylaws for Girls on the Run is there has to be a volunteer coach. It cannot be paid for Girls on the Run. So
Okay.
we'll put it out, we'll try to see if we can get some interest for a staff member. Part of it is that part of their philosophy is that you need to be volunteer.
Yeah.
It's
So
the
it's
only
still
thing.
a thing.
It's still a thing. Last year, we did not, we were not able to find a coach. And so, I could put it out, if there's also something to volunteer, and that could be in partnership with a classroom teacher. Our new fourth grade teacher, used to run Girls on the Run in the last school. I don't know if she's in a position to do that in her first year. But, we'll see what we can do. It's a really good program.
Yeah, my daughter did it, she loved it a couple of years ago. Does it have to, the volunteer have to be somebody that works in the school?
They would go on to a couple of, I think working on it as a few parents that just need something to be consistent, and maybe a backup. So I'll put that out there.
Does that someone have to run?
I don't run.
I walked out.
People run.
What if I rode a bike next to them as they run? That would be nice.
It's a really
No,
popular
If I'm running, you all better be running too.
That's awesome, I just,
Something going down.
Maybe email, I'll reach out to them.
So do you need to make a motion?
Make a motion that we accept these stipends as proposed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
4. Motion passed unanimously.
LED lighting upgrade.
Thank you. So we have had an LED lighting upgrade included in our long-term capital planning for a number of years. That being said, it is a fairly large investment, so it has been pushed down the road. However, due to our current energy markets, as well as, so that includes the pretty substantial increase in electricity rates, as well as climate change concerns, we did feel it was important for us to accelerate our plan for converting our lighting fixtures to LED. Luckily for us, we really have an exciting opportunity. So there are two utility companies in our SAD. One is Unitil and one is Eversource. So Eversource, for a number of years, has had a smart conversion plan where they work directly with LED companies, and essentially they pay for the conversion, and then it's a financing plan where they essentially bill you using the savings from a lower electricity rate. So it's amortized over a period of time. Seabrook is a Unitil town, so, and there's never been that opportunity here. However, we just learned this year that they are opening it up to schools. So Unitil has a partnership with Energy Management Consultants, EMC, and So we started the process with EMC back in January to conduct an analysis, determine the ROI, what the payback would be. And they, so they have provided us with a proposal. You know, for us to do the job, it's a, like I said, it's a substantial cost. It's $379,693. You know, we would look at about an 8-year, closer to 9-year payback conservatively. That being said, that does not include savings that we realize by daylight harvesting, by sensors that would be installed that would, so when you walk down a hallway, the lights would be off and as you move it turns on, those type of savings. So those are not included in the return, the payout, which would add about 15 to 20%. But we, for the purposes of this exercise, they use the absolutely most conservative figure because the way they structure this program is it's essentially you're financing this project over a period of time, and you bake in those energy savings as well as the rebates that you receive into our bill, your unit bill. So we see no increase for electricity rate as if we just had our normal lights with no upgrade. However, we have the LED lights installed, we start recognizing that savings, and at the end of that term, which is at 0% financing, so the utility doesn't charge us for doing the project, we start to recognize those savings as a town. So, you know, realistically, it's probably closer to a 5-year range, 5 to 6 year range. So it's really a great opportunity for us to not have to outlay funds. There's no initial investments. There's no increased cost to us. So we don't have to put out a warrant article. We don't have to go to the voters for it. The school board can just approve this. It will not affect tax rates. It will not cost us anything. But we'll be able to finish that project and then reap the benefits down the road. So we are recommending that the board accept the EMC lighting upgrade proposal utilizing Unitil's financing program in order to recognize the energy savings and fund the project.
Didn't we just give it the energy conservation?
So good question. So that's similar but different from this. So
Same company?
no. So we so as a consumer of energy, we are entitled to tax credits for our energy use. However, we're tax exempt, so we have no benefit to that, to utilizing those tax credits because we pay taxes. So what we did back in March timeframe is we are utilizing a third party. So that's through a hydroelectric company. So we're essentially selling our tax credits for them to utilize. So this is separate.
I was like, I just know we've talked about energy
Yeah,
and all
so
sorts of
now I
stuff.
remember it.
Well, I didn't know if this is something like on top of with another company and how exactly it is.
So yeah, so we'll be we're getting revenue by using a renewable energy source and gaining those tax credits. So it's separate from that is, so we, and I'll just go down energy tab, because this is really important right now, because of the way the energy markets are, it's really important that we optimize how we utilize energy and look long term. But we have delivery, which is Unitil, and then we actually negotiate out the supply side of energy, which is another separate entity. So we negotiate at the SAU level, quantity of scale, and we get the best possible rate from the supply side for both electricity and here at Seabrook, natural gas. Down the road, we're starting to see, there's a bill at the federal level that looks like it's going to pass that has incentives for different renewable energy sources. But, you know, when you're looking at like solar, whereas right now, there's not really a cost benefit to installing solar, it's difficult to make that financial case. The math is gonna change based on this bill, where we may wanna look at actually creating our own energy source, which would be something like solar or whatever. But those are areas that we are always looking at, where we could save money and lower our energy consumption.
So do we need to make a motion to,
Yes, so there is a motion included on board docs, is to accept the MC LED lighting upgrade proposal utilizing the Intel's financing program. I believe that I used utilize twice, but with energy savings to fund the upgrades.
I'll make that motion.
all in favor?
Aye.
4-0, motion passed.
So we can take
We can do the first two items in public, and then we can move to non-public.
so the resignation.
Yeah, so we received 2 resignations, these were shared with the board in the summer, one from elementary teacher Jackie Rohr, who accepted an assistant principal position in another district, and the second from elementary special educator Whitney Marino, who also has been offered a position in another district. So we would just ask the board to formally accept those resignations.
Make a motion that we accept the resignations.
A second.
Yeah.
Kelly did, okay.
But it does.
Next, to accept the resignation of Jackie Moore, effective immediately.
And Whitney.
And, oh, okay, you're gonna both together?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so now we're to the-
Yes.
Alright, so, do I have to take a vote?
Yep.
Okay, I make a motion to go into non-public at 5:40. Right.
A second.
Just say, yeah, it's under RSA 91.3 2.
AM.
I think it's B.
I have B listed.
Oh, it says
Okay.
to be A and B.
A and B. And who did that?
Kelly seconded.
And Jen seconded. Roll call is Jennifer Hubbard,
Yes.
Kelly Huber,
Yes.
Christina Kaiser,
Yes.
and Patrick Knott.
Yes.
Okay, you are now in non-public.
$500 stipend for suspect employees payroll on the December 9th, 2022 payroll.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous, motion passed.
I make a motion that we accept the new PE teacher and new classroom teacher as spoken about in the non-public.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Jen here.
Motion to adjourn.
She
Oh,
wants to do future meetings. So we have a policy committee meeting on Thursday, August 18th, beginning at 4 o'clock. Right next school board regular meeting is Tuesday, September 20th at 4:30 right here. And the operations committee will be meeting Wednesday, October 5th.
You got, replacement for policy, we got
So.
Of course, the longer.
Every meeting is one on that work, it's just about.
Might as well, I should just be on the
I work
policy
2 days,
committee.
I work 2 days.
Jen, do you want to
Every
make a motion to
meeting.
adjourn?
2 days a week.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, do it.
Motion to adjourn, Rhonda.
All right.
I'll second.
Well, everybody jumped.
Unanimous.
What time is the policy?